Welcome to the only live Sarasota political talk show, Clout 941. I'm your host, Ron Filipkowski. Visit our website at www.clout941 to watch any of our past 11 episodes, our past Weasels of the Week, commentaries and guests. Lots of fun stuff on the website. Check it out. Also, send us your emails. We have gotten several emails since last week's show about our new rumor mill segment where we report things we hear around town about different people who are thinking about running for office, people who are thinking about not running for re-election. If you have some rumors you'd like to report, email them to us or call the show. We'd like to hear from you. Now the news. This week, the Republican Executive Committee of Sarasota averted a disaster. Basically, the way this works is that they elect their chairman, their vice chairman, their treasurer among the precinct committeemen and committeewomen who are elected. Well, the Ron Paul Libertarians packed the Republican Executive Committee by getting on a lot of precinct committeemen and committeewomen very stealthily and very quietly just before the election. And I knew something was up when I showed up at the Republican Executive Committee meeting and I saw a lot of new faces I had never seen before. And sure enough, they had their own candidate, Walt Augustinowicz, who none of us had ever seen before or met, apparently new to Sarasota, ran for chairman. A lot of us who have been to a lot of these meetings kind of sloughed it off and laughed it off and thought it was no big deal, and then the votes were tallied and it was close. Joe Gruder's barely pulling out a win and getting the chairmanship in what most people thought would be a laugher. Jamie Miller as well. The Ron Paul people had a list of candidates for each office, and in fact their treasurer candidate won. That was a near miss. Joe Gruders, who was Vern Buchanan's campaign manager and longtime Republican Party activist, gets the chairmanship. If he hadn't, it would have been a disaster. On the Democrats, we hear Obama. The Obama campaign slogan was "No Drama, Obama," and there was no drama at the DEC elections. Rita Ferrandino and James Keeney cruised to re-elections. Now, the two chairs ran on opposite platforms. Rita ran on a platform of, hey, we did really well building our grassroots, but we need to raise more money. Joe on the opposite platform. Hey, we did really well raising money, but we need to do better on grassroots. So that was very interesting to see that they had opposite platforms. Now, more news. In Venice, something very odd is going on with the airport. The FAA is getting increasingly frustrated in trying to go forward with expansion efforts of the Venice airport, and they can't quite figure out what the problem is. They have issued letter after letter, the most recent letter saying that the City Commission is unnecessarily delaying expansion. They can't figure out why. We have tried to dig behind the scenes. The most plausible explanation that we can come up with is that one of the city commissioners, who is new, just bought a house right near the airport. And she does not like the noise and is not interested in the airport expanding further. If that's the case, that would be a nightmare. Finally, our last news item, Midnight Pass. This proves once and for all that the Department of Environmental Protection will simply not allow any development on the water in the state of Florida. It is virtually impossible. Here we have a situation where a waterway was closed by man, artificially closed, and people sought to reopen it. The Sarasota County sought to reopen it and return it to nature in its natural state, and the Department of Environmental Protection Agency turned down the request, stating that would harm the artificially created ecosystem that is now in place. If Midnight Pass can't be opened, there's virtually nothing you can do with a waterway in Florida. Now, tonight's guest is developer Pat Neal, who's also been very, very active in local politics, and we are going to talk about the local economy, what went wrong, and how to get it back on its feet. Pat, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ron. I'm planning to have fun.
Oh, good. I hope you will. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Ron, I've had the good fortune to have two lives. My business life, I've built about 7,600 homes, mostly in Bradenton, but also Sarasota and Pinellas County. I've been in the development business about 40 years. Still in all, during those years, I've participated or involved myself in more than 30 campaigns. I was in the State Senate and in the State House. I was chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee and the Senate Natural Resources Committee. I've been chairman of the state's Commission on Ethics, and most recently I was the chairman of the local Judicial Nominating Commission. So my avocation is politics. I like that part. My business is being a home builder and also a real estate developer.
How long have you been building homes in this area?
I built my first homes with my dad in 1968 at Longboat Key.
Wow.
I drove to 12th and Central and bought the sign.
That's when I was born, Pat.
Homes at Longboat Key from $18,600.
Wow.
That was at Whitney Beach. Those homes have sold as high as $700,000. Today you can get a bargain there.
All right, Pat. Now you've told us a little bit about your business background, your political background. We have what we call some of the soul-searching questions on Clout 941 that everybody has to answer.
I am ready.
Why don't you tell us about a famous person in history that you'd most like to sit down and have dinner with?
Okay, well, this is a political show. I was on the James Madison Institute board for a time. I don't mind saying I have a 12th grader at home. We study the Constitution. If I had dinner with somebody, I'd like to have dinner with James Madison. That sounds like an odd choice, but of course, one of the compelling things about our government in the United States is the creation of something brand new, a Constitution that's we've had now for 217 years. It's worked thick and thin, created a flexible mechanism for conducting our government, created America, the world's largest long-term democracy. And I have to say, these people, James Madison and Jefferson and the 56 people at that convention, read some books by John Locke and others. They came out with a new form of government in less than 100 days.
He's one of the most overlooked framers of the Constitution, and also he was the president during the War of 1812, if I'm not mistaken, and one of our greatest presidents, but one that, because of Jefferson and Washington, kind of gets short shrift.
Well, he was Jefferson's protege, of course. He was younger than Jefferson, lived 7 miles away from him. Jefferson is the person that we think is the great founder, but it's James Madison who wrote the Constitution.
Yep, that's true. If you look at the original documents in the Smithsonian, it's his handwriting that's on the line.
Now we have all this computer analysis. We can look at the writings of Madison, the writings of Jefferson. We can see who wrote what by the syntax of it all, and we think maybe 80% of the Constitution is written by Madison. The concepts of Madison, remember Franklin took good notes of the Constitutional Convention, so we sort of know what was discussed then. And these people invented something new and something we have still today.
Okay, well, you know, we got a couple of history buffs here, and if we don't stop here, we're going to go down a long road, and we got to get to the economy. So when we come back from our first break, we'll have our rumor mill segment, and we'll talk about some of the issues with Pat and Neal.